wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Transformers Reviews. This is episode 101, and today, guys, for our 101st episode, we're going to be taking a look at the three Prime Masters that a lot of people have been really anxiously waiting for, and that would include me too. And that would be Solus Prime, Megatronus, and Quintus Prime, along with their decoy armors, which would be Octopunch, Bomb Burst, and Bludgeoned. So anyway, guys, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a look at their artwork because out of all the Prime Armor artworks, I think I've liked these three probably the most. And with the decoy armor that's been chosen for each of these primes, I think it's rather appropriate. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at these guys out of their package. So what we're going to do when we start off here is we're actually going to look at the Prime decoy armor in weapon mode. And the deal is if you'll notice, like back here, none of these Prime armors have the primes attached to them because I believe when they're put right here, it adds just a really unnecessary bulk and makes some of the weapons more than others look a little odd. So we're going to just look at them like this. And to start off, we're taking a look here at Quintus Prime in rifle mode. Now the one thing about Quintus Prime is it's just a straight up reuse of the Vector Prime and the Alpha Trion rifle mode. And in regards to comparing it to them, it's not as good a looking a rifle in my opinion. It's just something with the barrel that makes it look funny. Now, does that mean it's not a good looking rifle mode? No, I mean it's decent, it's strange, but then again, considering that this is Quintus Prime, and especially with his decoy armor and his prime later on, you know, it kind of makes sense as to why this rifle looks odd. But do I dislike it? No, it's okay. It's just not my first choice for a prime weapon. But if we're going to go ahead and move on to Megatronus, you can see here he is like right there, and if you'll notice something about the blade, we have seen this before in the fact that it was used on Liege Maximo first. But for Megatronus, you can see they didn't even bother paint the claw this time around. Now personally, with Liege and Megatronus, I have always felt that any Prime armor using this blade attachment as the weapon, it never looks really good if you were to try to have it as a handheld weapon. Whereas we can see if it's a arm-mounted weapon like this, even though it kind of gives it a pseudo-Wolverine look, I think it just looks better. But if we go ahead and move on to what I think is probably the best and my favorite of all the new Prime armors, we actually have Quintus, or I'm sorry, we already did Quintus. This is Solus Prime. And one thing that I originally wondered about her character was, I wondered, you know, with this armor, it looks like this attachment was like a little bit of a buzzsaw weapon, but upon closer inspection, if you look at some of the details, especially with these two arms right here and this, it kind of looks like a harpoon or crossbow weapon, which, considering that Solus was the forger of the weapons, that would kind of make sense. So, I mean, like, you know, most of all, I think this is probably my favorite Prime armor right here. But other than that, let's go ahead and let's actually take a look at the primes themselves. Alrighty, everybody, and here are the primes, and guess what? They're prime modes. Go figure, right? So, if we're going to go ahead and look at these guys, we're going to start off with Quintus. And I got to say that Quintus Prime, even though he's just kind of like orange and yellow, and the molding itself is what strikes me because of how it's really, you know, it's really ornate and organic. And it just really kind of evokes, in my head at least, it reminds me of the G1 Quintessons and kind of their weird little design that they had. We're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to look at Megatronus. And Megatronus, I love the contrast between the grays and the red, or yeah, the grays and the reds. And, you know, like, it just gives you that bad guy vibe. Now, between the three that have come out, like with the Pretender shell, I really think that something about Solus, she's just my favorite so far. And I think that she it's really distinct how the teal stands out from the purple. But the one thing that makes it stand above the other two is while they've got, you know, some ornate, hers is just kind of, it gives you a simple and clean vibe to it, which I think that's why it does, you know, in addition to the paint, that's why I like it so much more. Because if you look at her, in addition to the other primes, they, you know, they all have something that just is like, you know, over the top and stuff, because these are the primes. But, you know, for the forger of the weapons, I think that that's just perfect. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at these guys in robot modes and see how they stack up to their pretender shells as well. Alrighty, everybody, so here we have Solus Prime, Quintus, and Megatronus. Now, I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail because you guys have seen Titan Masters before. You know what's up with these Prime Masters. The only weird thing is Quintus Prime, between him and the other two, he's the only one without face paint. You can look over on the right, Megatronus, he has face paint, Solus does. But the weird thing about Solus is if you can kind of see, she doesn't have eyes, she just has a visor, and instead of a mouth, she has a faceplate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we'll put these guys in their decoy armor. Alright, so here you get to look at these guys kind of close up, especially one based off of the Pretender Shell Bludgeon. That was awesome. I gotta say, just the Skull Samurai has always kind of been like one of my favorite. And then over here on the right, Bomb Burst, Megatronus using that. Just considering Megatronus can be like a feral warrior, again, very appropriate. Plus, I love that I don't know if you can pick up on that, but his eyes have gold paint in them. That they went to that much detail. And you know, if you look at basically, it's really hard to see. Oh, there you can kind of see it. The red paint for Bludgeon. That's just awesome. Now, the one thing is, as awesome as these two guys are, another reason that Solus kind of tops my list is Octopunch is kind of a weird choice. But I love how they used it. Plus, this little Pretender Shell is awesome. I just love the amount of detail. Plus, it's kind of weird to have like the skull right there on like her, you know, on her belt. But whatever. And the one thing is, if the detail, the way that they made the weapon kind of fold up and to give it the look that Octopunch had, that is really cool. Especially with like the little tentacle details on there. So, you know, just the little touches like that Solus has, everything that I've mentioned, that is everything as to why she is my favorite. And here they are with their prime weapons. And I gotta say that, you know, Quintus, I love the rifle mode, but here in like Pretender mode, that gun is way oversized. I mean, the thing is could we have given him a sword at least, and then just had that be like, you know, part of his prime weapon mode? That would have been so much cooler. It would have been different. But, you know, whatever. We got what we got. The only one here that seems decent is her with her little harpoon, you know, weapon or whatever, which is really cool. I love that. So if you can see, if you go ahead and give Quintus Prime the one for Alchemist, it works just as well with her too. And I wanted to go ahead and throw that in before I got too far along. So let's go ahead and wrap this up by taking a look at all of the primes that we got so far, at least. Alrighty, everybody, and lastly, here are all the primes, all of them armored up and everything, and I gotta say, I love it, because I didn't think we'd ever get Pretender Shells, and not that I was into it before we did, but now to have 8 of them, and to give the distinction, and how some of them are so awesome. Anyway, yes, I do love it. So, other than that, guys, this has been the review of Quintus Prime, Solus Prime, and Megatronus Prime. And until next time, guys, wait a minute. What is this? What is this? You mean I gotta do another review over this? What could it be? What could it be? Anyway, we'll see you guys in another review.